Very good morning to all of you, my friends. Welcome back after a long break. So today is the last session of this. In fact, my last session on for this revisionary batch, and I'll be discussing few very good questions on marginal costing, a very important chapter from examination point of view. So those who are watching over YouTube or watching over portal or watching over Zoom, I request you guys to please download the material what I have provided. I'll be discussing variety of questions. So I request you guys to please download the material what I have provided over the portal. The material is already uploaded over that revisionary batch section. So giving you 2 minutes time, as since this is the revisionary classes and I have discussed all the concepts in detail, but there are few questions that need to be discussed. So I have put up few questions. Again, these questions are not available in study material. So I request you guys to please download the material. Few questions are new, few concepts are new. So again, I'll be discussing these questions. So do pay attention. Again, I request you guys to please download the material what I have provided. So I'm starting with question number 1 from my material. Also sharing the screen for your reference. Question number 1 from my material, wherein MK manufactures and sell a single product X whose selling price is 40 rupees per unit and the variable cost is 16 rupees per unit. If the fixed cost for this year are rupees 4,80,000 and the annual sales are 60% margin of safety, calculate the rate of net return on sales assuming income tax level of 40%. Second point, for the next year, it is proposed to add another product line Y, whose selling price would be rupees 50 per unit and the variable cost will be rupees 10 per unit. The total fixed costs are estimated to be rupees 6,66,600. The sales mix of X and Y would be 7:3. At what level of sales next year would MK Limited will get break even? Giving separately for both X and Y the break-even sales in rupees and in quantity. So herein, when talking about the first part of the question, it's a basic question. And when talking about the second part, it talks about the sales mix-based question. So let's start with question number 1 from my material. So herein for product X, the selling price is given that is rupees 40 and variable cost per unit is given that is 16. Therefore, my contribution will be how much? 24. Now the question is asking us to calculate the totals, the net return on sales. So we need the total profit of the company. See, if the fixed cost is 4,80,000 and the annual sales are 60% of margin of safety, you are required to calculate the net return on total sales. So herein we have to calculate two figures, that is total sales and profit. So let's start with the calculation of total sales. So let's start with the calculation of total sales. Now herein we can easily calculate PV ratio, that is contribution divided by sales into 100. Again, guys, very important, the presentation is the key. So again, these questions I'll teach you guys how to present in exams also. So the presentation is also the key. So herein we have to calculate the PV ratio, that is contribution divided by sales into 100. So herein 24 is my contribution per unit, sales is 40 and into 100. So this will be 60%. Now the fixed cost is given in the question. And the fixed cost is 4,80,000. So first, since we have to calculate the total sales and the percentage of margin of safety to total sales is given, so we will first calculate the break-even sales. So this will be fixed cost 4,80,000 divided by my PV ratio, that is 60%. So my break-even sales will be rupees 8 lakh. Now herein the percentage of margin of safety is given, that is 60%. So if the percentage of margin of safety is 60%, break-even sales will be 40% of the total sales. I repeat again, actual sales can be divided in two parts, that is margin of safety sales and break-even sales. So if margin of safety sales is 60% of the total sales, I repeat, if the margin of safety sales is 60% of the total sales, my break-even sales will be 40% of the total sales. So therefore, my total sales will be how much? 8 lakh divided by 40%. It comes to 20 lakh rupees. Why 20 lakh? If the percentage of margin of safety is 60% of the total sales, then break-even percentage will be 40% of the total sales. So now we have got the total sales. So we will prepare the income statement. My total sales is how much? 20 lakh. Now see, PV ratio is 60% of the total sales. So this will be 12 lakh. So variable cost will be 8 lakh. The fixed cost is given in the question, that is 4,80,000. Therefore, my profit will be how much? 7,20,000. Now, herein in this question, income tax rate is also given, that is assuming an income tax level of 40%. So, income tax at the rate of 40%. So 7,20,000 into 40%, 2,88,000 will be my income tax. So my net profit after tax will be how much? 4,32,000. This will be my profit after tax. And when talking about the question, it is asking the net rate of return on sales. So return on sales will be how much? 4,32,000 divided by my total sales 20 lakh into 100. So the net rate of return will be 21.6%. So this is the way to solve this question. If anyone having any doubts over the portal or over Zoom, you guys can please post your query. Very good, Anurag. Now let's move towards the next part. So for the next year, it is proposed to add another product Y, whose selling price will be 50, variable cost will be 10. The total fixed cost will be 6,66,600, and the sales mix is given, that is 7:3. So at what level of sales next year would MK Limited will get break-even sales, giving separately for both X and Y the break-even sales in rupees and in units. So here the question is for sales mix. So let's start with product Y now. When talking about the selling price, that selling price is rupees 50 per unit, variable cost is 10 per unit. So my contribution will be how much? 40. Now the sales mix is given. That is X is to Y in the ratio of 7:3. Now we have to calculate break-even sales, and the fixed cost is given as a whole for X and Y. So we will first calculate the combined PV ratio, and then we will calculate the combined break-even sales. So let's calculate the combined PV ratio. I have discussed this concept in detail in my regular batch, so you can refer one question that I have discussed in my regular batch for your reference. No worries, Gulika, that's okay. I've just started a question, that's okay. So combined PV ratio we will calculate. So combined PV ratio will be combined contribution divided by combined sales into 100. We will put the weight of the sales mix in contribution and sales. So now contribution of X is how much? 24 into the weight is 7. Contribution of Y is 40 and the weight is 3. Whole divided by my sales, that is selling price is 40 into 7 plus 50 into 3. So this will be 288. Divided by 430 into 100. So it is 66.9767. So we have got the combined PV ratio. Now we will calculate combined break-even sales. Again, guys, do focus on the presentation, the way I am solving the question. Very good, Anurag. The answer is correct. Gulika, you can also try to solve the question. So now what will be my combined break-even sales? So see, the revised fixed cost is given, that is 6,66,600 divided by my PV ratio, that is 66.9767%. So it will be 9,95,000, sorry, 9,95,271. So this will be my combined break-even sales. Now we can distribute in among X and Y. Since the question is asking us to calculate the individual break-even sales of X and Y, so it is to be distributed in the ratio of sales, that is 40 into 7 and 50 into 3. Since this is the sales amount, it contains the quantity and price both. So it will be distributed in the ratio of sales, assuming the quantity, or we can say the weight, is 7 and 3. So 7 fours are 28. That is 280 is to 550 into 3, that is 150. So this will be 648083. So this is the break-even sales in rupees for X and Y. If you want to calculate it in units, you can simply multiply it by the selling price. You will get the units. So in units, we can say, if we divide this figure by the selling price, we will get the units for Y. And if we divide it by selling price of X, we will get the unit of X also. So this is the break-even sales in units. Now, alternatively, you can calculate the break-even sales in units also. That is, if you want to calculate break-even sales in units, there is one more way. We will first calculate the weighted average contribution. So the contribution of X is 24. into 7 plus 40 into 3 divided by 7 plus 3. So we'll get the weighted average contribution. So 24 into 7 plus 40 into 3, 288 divided by 10. So it comes to 28.8. So once the weighted average contribution is calculated, we can easily calculate the break you combined. That is 6,66,600 divided by combined contribution per unit, that is 28.8. We'll get 23,145 units. If you want to calculate in X and Y, you can distribute it in the ratio of 7:3. You'll get the same answer. Again, there may be a rounding of difference. So this is the way you guys have to solve the sales mix based question. If you guys have any doubts or queries, you guys can please post your query. Very good, Gulika. Very good, Anurag. So this is the way you guys have to solve the question if it is based on sales mix, giving you 2 to 3 minutes time to copy the solution. Again, these questions examiner do ask frequently these types of questions also. And again, it's a very important concept. So I request you guys to copy the solution, please. I hope you guys are thorough with the concepts. So done with the first question. Let's start with question number 2 of my material. So this question is based on return on investment. So let's start with question number 2. So the profit for the year of RJ Limited work out to 12.5% of the capital employed. One second. Yes, Gulika, you if you're finding it a bit confusing, then do revise it. You can refer my regular batch session. I have discussed this part in detail. So don't worry. I mean, it's a very easy concept. So just try to check the pre-recorded session and try to solve few more questions. You'll be thorough with the concept. It's a easy concept. So the profit for the year of RJ Limited work out to 12.5% of the capital employed, and the relevant figure are as under. So the sales was 5 lakh, direct material was 2 lakh 50,000, direct labor was 1 lakh, variable overheads are 40,000, and the capital employed is 4 lakh. So capital employed is given, the percentage of return on capital employed is given, the variable cost and sales is given. So we can easily calculate the profit, and once the profit is calculated, we can calculate the fixed cost. Now there is a new sales manager who has recently joined the company, and estimates for the next year, and he estimates that the next year profit will be 23% of the capital employed, provided the volume of sales is increased by 10%. So he says that I'll make sure that the profit is 23% of the capital employed. If the sales is increased by 10%, there is an increase in selling price by 4%, and overall cost reduction by 2%. So there are three changes: the quantity is increased, the selling price is increased, and they have planned accordingly that they will save the cost by 2%. Find out by computing in detail the cost and profit for the next year and whether the proposal of sales manager can be adopted or not. So let's start with question number 2. So let's prepare the income statement for the current year. Herein we have sales, that is rupees 5 lakh. When talking about variable costs, we have material, labor, and variable overheads. And it is 2 lakh 50,000, 1 lakh and 40,000. So this will be 3 lakh 90,000. So we will get contribution 1 lakh 10,000. Fixed cost is not given. So we can say this will be the balancing figure when talking about profit. When talking about profit, they're saying it is 12.5% of the capital employed, and the capital employed is 4 lakh. 4 lakh into 12.5%. So my profit will be 50,000. Therefore, my fixed cost will be my balancing figure. This will be 60,000. So this is the income statement for the current year. Now, when talking about the income statement for the next year, so when talking about sales, see, there is an increase in sales quantity by 10% and there is an increase in selling price by 4%. So my new sales will be how much? 5 lakh into 110% into 104%. So we have to increase the sales by 10% and the selling price need to be raised by 4%. So 5 lakh plus 10%. So 5 lakh 50,000 will be the impact of volume. And if we increase the price also, then my revised sales will be 5 lakh 72,000. So I'm just taking the total variable cost. Again, when talking about variable cost, it changes according to the production. So again, there will be an impact of the quantity and there is a reduction in price also. So my total variable cost is how much? 3,90,000. So the quantity is increased, so the variable cost will increase by 10%. However, there is a saving in cost by 2%. So it means the total cost will be 98% of the previous cost. So into 98%. So 3,90,000 plus 10%, that is 4,29,000. We have increased the cost because there is an increase in quantity. However, there is a saving in cost by 2%. So it means my revised variable cost will be 420,420. Therefore, my contribution will be how much? 151580. When talking about fixed cost, or fixed cost is 60,000. Now, very important, the change in quantity doesn't impact the fixed cost. Fixed cost remains same at all the level of production. So even though the production is increased by 10%, there will be a no change in fixed cost. However, since due to cost cutting and suitable measures, yes, the fixed cost is also reduced by 2%. So we'll directly do 98%. So this will be 58,800. So my final profit will be how much? 92,780. So now let's check the return on capital employed. Sorry, return on capital employed. My capital employed is how much? Rupees 4 lakh. Sorry, I think the screen sharing was on. So this will be 23.195. Since the new manager said that, okay, the manager said that I'll arrange a return of 23%, and yes, we are getting a return of 23.195. So let's see what the question is saying. That find out, computing in detail the cost and profit for the next year and whether the proposal of sales manager can be adapted. So yes, we can adapt. In fact, yes, the proposal should be adapted. Very good, everyone. Your answers are correct. So this is the way we have to solve the question if the question is relating to return on capital employed. If you guys have any doubts or queries, you guys can please post over the portal, and over those who have joined over Zoom, you guys can please post the queries over Zoom also. So done with this question. Now let's start with question number 3. It's a very good question. The question is relating to opportunity cost. I request you guys to take the screenshot, those who have not downloaded the material. So let's start with this question. Question number 3. A company can make any one of the 3 products, that is X, Y, or Z, in a year. So there are 3 types of products what the company can manufacture, that is either X or Y or Z. It can exercise its option only at the beginning of each year. So I repeat again, the company can make only one product of any of the three products, that is X, Y, or Z, and it can exercise its option only at the beginning of the year. Now, relevant or information about the products for the next year is given below, wherein the selling price is given, variable cost is given, the market demand is given, the production capacity is given, and the overall fixed cost is given. Compute the opportunity cost for each of the products. So again, it's a different question and it's a unique question. So let's start with question number 3. So there are three products, X, Y, and Z. When talking about the selling price, it is 10, 12, and 12. When talking about variable cost, it is 6, 9, and 7. So my contribution per unit will be how much? 4, 3, and 5. Now see, very important, how much maximum contribution we can earn in X, Y, and Z, that we need to calculate. So in X, the market demand is for 3,000 units. However, our production capacity is only 2,000 units. So even though the demand is of 3,000, but our production capacity is only 2,000. So how much the maximum production we can do and we can get the contribution? 2,000 units we will manufacture. Similarly for Y, the market demand is 2,000 only. The production capacity is 3,000. See, when the demand is of 2,000 units, so why we, even though our manufacturing capacity is 3,000, we will manufacture 2,000 units only. I repeat again, the market demand is given, that is 2,000 units, but our production capacity is 3,000 units. So even though we have a production capacity of 3,000 units, we will manufacture and sell 2,000 units only, because the demand is for 2,000 units only. So again, when talking about the production, the units manufactured will be 2,000 units only in this case. Now in the third case, the demand is for 1,000. However, our production capacity is 900 only. So we'll be able to manufacture 900 units only. So the units manufactured will be will be 900 only. So contribution, how much? So for X, it will be 8,000. For Y, it will be 6,000. And for Z, it will be 4,500. Now see, the question is asking us to compute the opportunity cost for each of the products. You are required to compute the opportunity cost for each of them. When talking about opportunity cost or opportunity loss, when talking about opportunity cost, it's the cost of foregone opportunity, or opportunity loss, the loss of foregone opportunity. That is, when talking about, since they are telling us to calculate the opportunity cost for all the three products. So see, it's not a calculation based question, but it's an explanation based question. So if we manufacture X, see, the highest amount of contribution we are getting in X only if we manufacture X. We will get, if we manufacture X, we will get the maximum contribution, that is 8,000. But guys, do pay attention that अगर हम लोग X manufacture नहीं करते तो next highest contribution किसका है? Y का. We would have manufactured Y. If we are not manufacturing X by some or other reason, then we can say we would have manufactured Y. So we can say the opportunity loss will be how much, that if so हम लोग X manufacture कर रहे हैं, इस वजह से हम लोग Y manufacture नहीं कर पाए. So again we can say there is a loss of contribution of Y. So herein we can say if we manufacture X, there is a loss of contribution of Y of rupees 6,000, since the next highest contribution is of Y. So we can say if we manufacture X, then there is a loss of contribution of Y of rupees 6,000, since the next highest contribution is of Y. So for X, the opportunity loss is of how much? Rupees 6,000. Now second, if we manufacture Y, अगर हम लोग Y मैन्युफैक्चर करते हैं by some or other reasons, again the opportunity loss will be what? Of X, because we are not being able to manufacture X because we are manufacturing Y. So here we can say there is an opportunity loss of how much? 8,000, because the highest contribution belongs to X. So there is a again, I'm not writing the explanation in detail. So if we manufacture Y, then there is an opportunity loss of 8,000 because the highest contribution is of X. And third, if we manufacture Z, again, the highest contribution is of X. So there is an opportunity loss of 8,000 rupees, since we are not being able to manufacture X. So now see, there is a question that sir, सिर्फ X का ही क्यों और सिर्फ Y का ही क्यों? Because it is mentioned in the question clearly that the company can manufacture only one type of product. So again, these types of question examiner can ask. So if you guys have any doubts or queries, you guys can please post further. I request you guys to copy this explanation. You have to write this explanation in all the part, since there is a loss of contribution of Y of 6,000, since the next highest contribution is of Y. If we manufacture Y, there is an opportunity loss of 8,000, since the highest contribution we can get is in X only. And similarly for Z, if we manufacture Z, there is an opportunity loss. अगर हम लोग Z manufacture करते हैं, तो again, if we are not manufacturing Z, we will be manufacturing X only, not Y. If we are manufacturing Z, then अगर हम लोग manufacture नहीं करते, we would have manufactured X only, since the highest contribution goes to X only. So that's why there is an opportunity loss of 8,000. So again, this concept is new. So those who have any doubts or queries, you guys can please post. In the meanwhile, giving you 2 to 3 minutes time to again copy everything and do write your comments that why I have written this solution. Again, see, the point is whatever I'm writing over the board is fine. But again, your understanding is also necessary. So whatever you have understood from this concept or from this question, just write in your language, so that again, while revising for exams, you'll be able to recollect that this is what sir taught me and this is what I have understood from this concept. So giving you 2 to 3 minutes time to copy everything and again write the concepts in your language that what you have understood from this part. See, Gulika, very important. Sir, can the opportunity cost includes the contribution foregone for both the products which we didn't manufacture? Can it be 8,000 plus 6,000? Okay, Gulika, you will only tell the answer. Can you please unmute? Gulika? Okay, so Gulika? Acha, no mic. No worries, that's okay. So Gulika, see, read the question. The first line of the question, the company can make only any one of the three products. What the first line of the question is that the company can make only one of the three products. So if we are not manufacturing Z, we would have manufactured either X or Y. I hope it is clear. So the company can manufacture only one product. Yes, Anurag, 1 second. Let me address the perfect now. Great, Kulika. So Anurag said that in case of manufacturing product Z, can we write as there is an opportunity loss of 8,000 and 6,000 if the question says to manufacture two product as X and Y have higher contribution than Z? See, Anurag, see, very simple. If the question is asking us to manufacture either of the two products, then again, if we are manufacturing X, the loss of contribution will be 6,000 plus 4,000. See, the point is the question again. This question is incorrect because the question is asking us to manufacture only one product. So if we can manufacture two products, then we would have manufactured X and Y, and the opportunity loss will be 4,500. If we are manufacturing Y and Z, the opportunity loss will be for 8,000. If we are manufacturing X and Z, the opportunity loss will be of 6,000. I hope it is clear. So I'm just extending your question. Anyone else with any doubts or queries? So now let's move toward question number 6 from my material. So the reason for discussing this question is that, okay, in study material, these types of questions are not available, but the concept of opportunity cost or opportunity loss is given in the study material. So again, examiner can ask these types of questions. So let's discuss one more good question. Question number 6. It's a mathematical based question, a simple mathematics trick. But again, you have to be thorough with the concepts of marginal costing. Then only you'll be able to discuss, you'll be able to solve question number 6. So let's start with question number 6. It's a very good question, but a simple mathematics based question. So XY Limited makes two products, X and Y, whose respective fixed costs are F1 and F2. So there is a company XY Limited. One second. So there is a company XY Limited that makes two products X and Y, whose respective fixed costs are F1 and F2. You are given that the unit contribution of Y is 1/5 less than the contribution of X. So the unit contribution of Y is 1/5 less than the contribution of X. That the total of F1 and F2 is 1,50,000, comma, that the break-even point of X is 1,800 units. For break-even point of X, F2 is not considered. They have given the explanation. And that 3,000 units is the indifference point between X and Y. So when talking about indifference point, the point where the cost or we can say the profit are equal. So indifference point is the point where we can say the profit is equal for both the products or cost is equal for both the products. So they have given the explanation also, that is the X and Y makes equal profit at 3,000 units volume, considering their respective fixed cost. So they have defined the indifference point also, that is the point where their profits are equal. There is no inventory built up as whatever is produced and is sold. So find out the value of F1 and F2 and the unit contribution of X and Y. So it's a very good question. It's a bit on the trickier side. Anyone having any opinion, you guys can post your opinion on this question. I repeat the question. XY Limited makes two products, X and Y, whose respective fixed costs are F1 and F2. You are given that the unit contribution of Y is 1/5 less than the contribution of X. That the total of F1 and F2 is given, that is 1,50,000. Break-even point of X is given, that is 1,800 units. For break-even point of X, F2 is not considered. And that 3,000 units is the indifference point between X and Y, that is X and Y can make equal profits at 3,000 units volume, considering their respective fixed cost. Further, there is no inventory built up as whatever is produced is sold. Find out the values of F1 and F2 and the unit contribution of X and Y. So let's start with this question. Now see, the contribution of Y is 1/5 less than the contribution of X. So let's start with this question number 6. So when talking about the contribution of X, we can say let it is CX. This is contribution of X. So when talking about the contribution of Y, we can say it is 1/5 less than the contribution of X. So we can say contribution of X minus 1/5 less than the contribution of X. Therefore, it will be how much? 4/5 of CX. CX minus 1/5 of CX. So we can say it is 4/5 or we can say it is 80%. 4 divided by 5, it will be 0.8 of CX. So now we have the two figures that the contribution of X will be CX and the contribution of Y will be 0.8 CX. Anyone having any doubts till now? Very good. Very good, Gulika. Your approach is correct. I'm damn sure you'll be able to solve the question. So just try it on your own. Very good, Gulika. So now the contribution of Y will be how much? 0.8 of CX. Now here in the second point is given fixed cost of F1 plus F2. F1 belongs to X and F2 belongs to Y. And the total fixed cost is 1,50,000. This is the total fixed cost given, that is 1,50,000. And break-even point of X is given, that is 1,800 units. So this part is given in the question. Now, when talking about break-even point, it is fixed cost divided by contribution per unit. So when talking about break-even point of X, it is 1,800 units. The fixed cost is given of X, it is F1. And contribution per unit of X is how much? Contribution of X. So let's cross multiply. So fixed cost of X will be how much? 1,800 into contribution of X, or we can say cross multiply 1,800 CX. So this will be the fixed cost of X. When talking about F2, when this is what the fixed cost of X, when talking about F2, F2 will be how much? 1,50,000 is the total fixed cost. This is what? When talking about the fixed cost of F2, the total fixed cost is 1,50,000. We have got the fixed cost of X. We have got the fixed cost of X, that is 1,800X, 1,800 CX. So we have got the fixed cost of X. We have got the fixed cost of Y. Anyone having any doubts till now, you guys can please post your queries. So I repeat again, let the contribution of X be CX. Therefore, the contribution of Y will be how much? 0.8 of CX. That is 4/5 of CX. Now, F1 and F2 are 1,50,000. That is the fixed cost of X and the fixed cost of Y. The total is 1,50,000. The break-even point for X is given, that is 1,800 units. So when talking about break-even point, it is fixed cost divided by contribution per unit. So fixed break-even point is 1,800 units. Fixed cost of X is F1 divided by contribution per unit is CX. So we can say F1 will be equal to 1,800 CX. So we have got this value, that is 1800 CX. So for F2, it will be how much? F2 will be how much? 1,50,000 minus F1. And when talking about the value of F1, it will be 1800 CX. Anyone having any doubts till now? You guys can please post. Now we have got the fixed cost of F1 and F2, and we have got the contribution of fixed cost of X and Y, and the contribution of X and Y. Gulika, are you able to solve the question? I mean, you got the answer? Yes, Anurag? No, this is incorrect. This is incorrect, Gulika. Yes, Anurag, you solved this question. I think you're posting your answers in every question. Anyone who are watching our portal, you any idea about how to solve this question? See, examiner can ask anything. There is no end of marginal costing. The concept of marginal costing is very vast. Examiner can ask you variety of question, wide variety of question. So there is no end of marginal costing. See, if you have solved 100 questions on marginal costing, examiner can ask 101st question. So there is no end of marginal costing. Try to use your brains. Again, try to solve the question on your own. Then only you will be thorough with the concepts. Again, I am not discussing any rocket science. The simple is that, okay, it's a bit confusing, but again, the concepts are same what I have discussed in my regular batch. So anyways, guys, we are ready with the contribution of X. We are ready with the contribution of Y. We are ready with the fixed cost of X. We are ready with the fixed cost of Y. Now, at indifference point, one second. So at indifference point, is 3,000 units. When talking about indifference point, the point where the profits are same. So now, the contribution per unit of X is how much? CX. I repeat again, when talking about indifference point, this is the point where profits are seen. Now, when talking about the contribution per unit, contribution per unit of X is CX. So what will be the total contribution of X? Can anyone tell me? Yes, Anurag. What will be the total contribution of X? The contribution per unit. No, Gulika, it is incorrect. So see now, the indifference point is 3,000 units. Now the contribution per unit of X is CX. So what will be the total contribution of X? It will be 3,000 into CX. This is what the contribution per unit of X. So contribution per unit, that is CX into the number of units. This will be the total contribution of X. Minus the fixed cost of X is how much? 1800 CX. So total contribution minus fixed cost. This is what? My contribution minus fixed cost. My contribution will be how much? 3,000 units into the contribution per unit of X. So this will be 3,000 CX minus the fixed cost. F1 is what? The fixed cost of X. So minus 1800 CX. So this is how we will get, this is what? This is how we will get what? The profit of X. This will be my profit of X. Now, at indifference point, both X and Y have same profit. So, let's calculate the profit of Y. When talking about Y, the total contribution of Y will be how much? 0.8 CX into 3,000. This is what my contribution minus fixed cost of Y is how much? 1,50,000 minus 1,800 CX. This is what? And this will be what? The profit of Y. Contribution minus fixed cost is what? Profit. So profit of X will be how much? 3,000 into CX minus 1,800 CX. So 3,000 into CX is what? The contribution, and 1,800 CX is what? Fixed cost. So now let's solve this part. So this will be 1,200 CX should be equal to 2,400 CX minus 1,50,000 minus 1,800 CX. Sorry, minus this will be, so this will be plus 1,800 CX. This is contribution minus fixed cost is 150 minus 1,800. So putting it in brackets, so this will be minus 150 and minus minus plus 1,800 CX. So this will be 1,200 CX should be equal to 2,400 plus 1,800, 4,200 CX minus 1,50,000. So now changing the sides. So 4,200 CX minus 1,200 CX should be equal to 1,50,000. 3,000 CX equals to 1,50,000. So contribution of X, contribution per unit of X will be how much? So contribution of X will be how much? 50 rupees per unit. I hope this part is clear to all of you. Very good. Anurag. Very good, Gulika. So when we have got the contribution of X, that is rupees 50 per unit, we can calculate the contribution of Y. So this is what? Contribution per unit of X. So contribution per unit of Y will be what? Into 80%. So this will be rupees 40 per unit. Now when talking about the fixed cost of X, fixed cost of X is 1,800 into contribution of X. F1 is what? Fixed cost of X. It is equals to how much? 1,800 CX. So therefore, it will be how much? 1,800 into the contribution of X is 50. So this will be 90,000. Since the total fixed cost is how much? F1 plus F2 is 1,50,000. So fix F2, that is so this is all what about this question. I hope you are thorough with this part. Anyone having any doubts or queries, you guys can please post again. It's a very good question. There are no new concepts. The concepts are same. Everything is same. The point is what? That you should be thorough with the concepts and you should be good in mathematics. So it's a simple mathematics and a simple equation based question. I request you guys to copy this part, and whatever the queries you have, you guys can please post your queries. Waiting for your queries. I hope this is clear to all. Anurag, Gulika, any doubts? Yes, Anurag and Gulika. I think it is 6 to 8 marks, Anurag. Since it's bit on the trickier side, it's bit confusing. So we can say it is 6 to 8 marks. So the key is try to solve the question with patience. Don't rush for the solution, Gulika. But anyways, you and Anurag were able to crack it that yes, we have to equate the equation using 3000 units. But I think, I mean, your approach was correct. These types of questions you have to solve with patience. Patience is the key, because when you find these types of equation based question, there are chances of error and mistakes. We can say the first mistake can be here itself. There can be a mistake here itself, that it is contribution minus fixed cost. So what generally students do, it is minus 150 minus 1800, but it is not minus 1800, it will be plus 1800. So this part is the key, and rest again there are many other points in this question. So instead of speeding up the calculation, try to solve the question with patience. So yes, it was 4 divided by 5 only, but since to simplify the question I have made it 0.8x, but you can solve it by 4 divided by 5 also, so it's okay, it's manageable. The point is try to simplify the solution, I mean, in the best possible way. So because generally when it is numerator and denominator, generally the students make a mistake that kabhi cross multiply galat kar dete and all this. So better try to convert it in decimals. You will find the solution bit more easy as compared to the numerator and denominator thing. Yes, anyone else with any doubts? Now the next concept what we'll be discussing, there is one more question I want to discuss. The next question what we'll be discussing is about key factor. When talking about key factor or limiting factor, the resource which are available in limited, I mean, it's available in a limited quantity, or there is a limited supply of resources, we call that resource as a key factor. So the resources can be, the major resources for the companies to manufacture a product are material and labor, and we can say machine hours also. So when talking about if the material is available in very limited quantity, or decision will be based on contribution per kg of raw material. If labor hours are in limited supply, then which product we should manufacture? See, key factor comes into picture when the companies are manufacturing two or more than two products. And since we have limited resources, so which product to manufacture? So we have to keep in mind that which resource is limited. So when talking about if the material quantity is limited, then which product to manufacture, the decision will be based on contribution per kg of raw material. If the labor hours are limited, then it will be contribution per labor hour. If the machine hours are limited, it will be contribution per machine hour. Sometimes, the question can ask you to limit the sales quantity or the sales value also. So if the sales quantity is limited, then decision will be based on contribution per unit. And if the sales value is the limiting factor, then the decision will be based on PV ratio. So these are the various criteria which we need to follow when the question is based on key factor. Again, examiner do ask question frequently on key factor. In every third or fourth attempt, you will find a question based on key factor. Now, till now, we discussed variety of questions on key factor in my regular batch also, in few revisionary classes also. I have discussed the question on key factor, wherein the key factor was that, in fact, in study material also we solved few questions, and there was only one key factor. So if in the questions what we discussed, either the key factor was only the material, there is a limited supply of material, or the labor hours were limited, or the machine hours were limited. So these were the variety of questions what we discussed till now. So now today we'll be discussing one question wherein if what how to deal with the situation wherein there are two or more than two key factor, or if there are two key factor, so how to deal the same, that I'll be discussing in one question today. It's question number, it's question number 5th of my material. So I request you guys to read this question. I'll be taking a break of 15 minutes, and after the break, I'll be discussing this question. It's again a very good question. How to deal with when there are two key factors in a particular question. So, Edwin sir, let's take a break of 15 minutes. So, this is the question, Gulika. This is the first page. You can take the screenshot. And this is the second part. So, do read the question. I'll be back after the break and I'll be discussing this question in detail. Edwin sir. Welcome back, my friends. So now let's start with this question. Question number 5 from the material what I have provided. So a company is producing 3 products, X, Y, and Z. Relevant information is given below, wherein raw material per unit is given, that is 20, 12, and 30. Machine hours per unit is given, that is 3, 5, and 4. Selling price per unit is given, that is 500, 400, and 800. Maximum limit of production, that is 1500, 1500, and 750. So these are the maximum number of units the company can manufacture. Now, only 9,200 hours are available for production at a cost of rupees 20 per hour. And the maximum 50,000 kgs of material is available at the rate 20 per kg can be obtained. Only product mix quantities are to be shown. Calculation of total profit at that product mix is not required to be shown. So on the basis of above information, determine the product mix to give the highest profit if at least 2 products are manufactured. So let's start with this question. Question number 5 from my material. So there are 3 products. The selling price is given in the question, that is 500, 400, and 800. Raw material cost we can calculate, and machine hours cost we can calculate. So raw material cost, it is 20 units are required to manufacture X, and the cost of material is 20 rupees per kg. So this will be 400. For the second one, it will be 12 into 20, that is 240. And 30 into 40, sorry, 30 into 20. So this will be 600. Machine cost is given, wherein 3 hours per unit, and the cost per hour is rupees 20. So 20 into 3, that will be 60. 5 into 20, that will be 100. And 4 into 20, this will be 80. So we have got the contribution per unit. So 500 minus 460, that will be 40. 400, so this will be 60. And this will be 120. So when talking from contribution per unit prospect, we can say we are getting the highest contribution in case of Z. So if we rank the priority order from contribution per unit perspective, highest is first, second, and third. From contribution per unit perspective, we are getting highest contribution in case of Z, followed by Y and X. Now, herein, when talking about this question, there are 2 key factors. That is the machine hours and the quantity of raw material. So let's take machine hour into consideration. How much are the machine hours given? 3, 5, and 4. So since machine hours is my key factor, so we will contribute, we will calculate contribution per machine hour. So 40 divided by 3. Contribution per unit is 40 and the number of machine hours are 3. So it will be 13.33. 60 divided by 5, that is 12. And 120 divided by 4, so this will be 30. So when talking from machine hours perspective, when keeping in mind the machine hours is my key factor, first priority is to be given to Z, second to Y, second to X, and third priority should be given to Y. I repeat again, from machine hours perspective, if machine hour is my key factor, the first priority should be given to Z, second priority should be given to X because the contribution per machine hour is second highest in case of X, and third in case of Y because again it is the lowest one. Now there is one more key factor, that is material. Material per unit is 20, 12, and 30. So we can calculate contribution per kg of material. So 40 divided by 20, this will be 2. 60 divided by 12, this will be 5. And 120 divided by 30, this will be 4. So I repeat again, material per unit is 20, 12, and 30. So contribution per kg of material will be 40 divided by 20, that is 2. 60 divided by 12, this will be 5. And 120 divided by 30, this will be 4. So when talking about the rank from perspective of material, the first priority should be given to this one, second priority should be given to this one, and third priority should be given to this one. This I am just writing it for your reference that if the contribution is on the higher side, if we can say if the sales quantity is the limiting factor, this will be the criteria for manufacture. But in case of machine hours, so in this question, there are two factors. First one is what? The machine hours, and second one is what? The quantity of raw material. So herein from machine hour prospect, Z, X, and Y, and from material perspective, it is Y, Z, and X. Now see, guys, very important. In both the cases, be it material, be it machine hour, one thing is common, that on third priority, Z is not there. Either Z is on the first priority or second priority. So it means what? See, in case of machine hour perspective, Y is on the third priority. In case from if it is from material perspective, X is on the third priority. So herein in both the cases, Z is not on the third priority. Z is either on the first priority or second priority. So it means what? That Z will be manufactured by anyhow. By hook or crook, Z will be manufactured. The problem is with X and Y. Because एक में X third पे है, एक में Y third पे है. So Z will be manufactured since it's not on third priority. In either of the case, therefore, we will manufacture full 750 units of Z. Thereafter, so we'll manufacture full 750 units of Z. So we can say after manufacturing Z, so after manufacturing Z, we will, after manufacturing Z, the balance resources will be utilized to manufacture product X and Y. So when talking about machine hours, the total machine hours we have is how much? The total machine hours are total 9,200, of which if we manufacture 750 units of Z, the hours consumed will be how much? 4. So hours consumed will be 750 into 4. So we will be left out with 6,200 hours for X and Y. Similarly, when talking about raw material also, the total raw material available is how much? 50,000 kgs. But after manufacturing Z, 750 units, after manufacturing 750 units of Z, will be left out with 27,500 kgs of raw material of. So Z will be manufactured, since it's not on the third priority in either of the case. So we will manufacture full 750 units of Z. And after manufacturing Z, the balance resource will be utilized to manufacture product X and Y. So total we have 9,200 hours. So if 750 units of Z are manufactured, then the total hours consumed will be 750 into 4. So balance for X and Y will be left out with 6,200 hours. Similarly, in case of material also, we have 50,000 kgs in our hand. So since we are manufacturing Z, so 750 units into per unit, how much we require? 30 kgs. So this will be utilized to manufacture Z. So it means what? We are left out with 27,500 kgs for what? For X and Y. Now, so there are two things. The first thing is what? My machine hours, and second thing is what? My raw material. Now see, total we have how many hours? 6,200 hours. Total we have 6,200 hours. Now, when talking about the machine hours to manufacture the machine hours to manufacture X is how much? Total 3 hours. So let the units manufactured for product X be X, and let the units manufactured for product Y be Y. Let the unit manufacture for product X be X, and let the units manufacture for product Y be Y. Now, number of units, sorry. So now how many hours will be consumed? So 3 hours per unit. So total how many hours? 3 into X. 3 hours are required to manufacture product X. So 3 into X. How many hours are required to manufacture product Y? 5 hours. And the number of units for product Y is how much? Y. So 3X plus 5Y. This should be equal to how many hours? 6,200 hours. Similarly, in case of material also, the number of units manufactured for product X be X. So total how much raw material will be consumed in X? 20X. For Y, how much raw material will be consumed? 12Y. This should be equal to how much? 27,500 kgs. So 20X plus 12Y should be equal to 27,500 kgs. So these are the two equations, equation first and equation second. If you guys have any doubts till now, you guys can first post your query, then I'll solve this equation. So anyone with any doubts or queries? I repeat again for everyone. The selling price is given, the raw material cost is given, the machine cost is given. So we have got the contribution per unit. This information is of no use. Okay, so I'm erasing it. Now, sorry. First thing, the first key factor is my machine hours. So there are 3, 5, and 4 machine hours. So we will calculate the contribution per machine hour. So this is 13.33, 12, and 30. Now, the first priority should be given to Z, second should be given to X, and third should be given to Y. Now, again, the second key factor is what? Raw material. So material per unit is how much? 20, 12, and 30. So we will calculate the contribution per kg of raw material, that is 40 divided by 22, 60 divided by 12, that will be 5, and 120 divided by 30, that will be 4. So ranking will be first, second, and third. Now what we can see is that there is third rank in Y, there is third rank in X, but Z is constant at first and second. So it means what? Z will be manufactured for sure. Z तो आपका manufacture होगा ही. I think the number of units are incorrect. So Z will be manufactured for sure. So Z will be manufactured since it's not on third priority in either of the case. So we will manufacture full 750 units of Z. And after manufacturing Z, the balance resources will be utilized to manufacture product X and Y. So if Z is manufactured, total machine hours are 9,200. And since the maximum possible production is 750 units, so 750 units into 4 hours for a unit. So 9,200 minus this much, we will be left out with 6,200 hours. Similarly for Y also, similarly for raw material also, we have 50,000 kgs of raw material. Since Z is manufactured in full, so 750 units into the raw material required per unit is 30. So 750 into 30. So balance we are left out with 27,500 kgs. So this much raw material we are left out with 6,220. This much resources we are left out with, that is 6,200 hours and 27,500 kgs. Now let's make an equation where in total we have 6,200 hours. So let the number of units manufactured for product X, let the number of units manufactured for product X be how much? X. And let the number of units manufactured for product Y be Y. So machine hours are 3 hours per unit into the number of units X, 5 hours per unit into the number of units Y. So these are the total number of hours which should be equal to 6,200. Similarly, again in case of raw material, the number of units manufactured for X is X into the raw material per unit is 20. So this is the total raw material used in X. And similarly, 12 into Y, this will be the raw material used in product Y. And this raw material quantity should be equal to 27,500. So now let's solve this simultaneous equation. So we'll multiply it by 20 and this will be multiplied by 3. So 3 to just 6, 60x plus 100y should be equal to, so this will be 1,24,000. Again, this will be 60x, 36y. So this will be 82,500. So this will be 64y. So y will be equal to 648 units. Since we have the value of y, we can calculate the value of x. So So in short, 750 units of Z, 648 units of Y, and 986 units of X will be manufactured. So this is the way to solve the question. Please recheck your calculation, my dear. I request you guys to copy the solution. Again, it's a unique question. These types of questions are not there in the study material. So I request you guys to copy the solution and do write your comments in your language. Whatever the queries you have, you guys can please post. Kulika, what went wrong? Can you please elaborate because your answers are not matching with my answers? Yes, we have to manufacture all three, but the point is the number of units are not given. If we have to manufacture two, then we can manufacture either of X or Y, whose contribution per unit is on the higher side. But yes, since the demand is limited, the manufacturing capacity is limited, so accordingly. So I hope this part is clear to all. Anyways, giving you 5 minutes time to copy everything. See, out of three, one is already selected straight away because the third rank doesn't goes to Z. Either it is first or second. So Z is already selected. In between X and Y, no, it should not be, because we have to utilize the resources in full. Whatever the resources we have to utilize it in full. That's why. At this mix, the contribution will be the highest. You can please check, the calculation also. Last 3 minutes to copy and post your queries. So done with this question now. So from the material what I have provided, we have discussed question number 1, question number 2, question number 3. Question number 4 is a very easy question, so you can solve it on your own. It's that simply you have to prepare a profitability statement. Question number 5 we have discussed, and question number 6 we have discussed. So question number 4, you can try to solve it on your own. It's a very easy question and a straightforward question. So now we are done with these questions. Now let's sum up this chapter, marginal costing. We are left out with 15 more minutes. So let's sum up this chapter. What all are the things that are covered in this chapter? So let me give you a brief. When talking about this chapter is based on 5 terms, that is sales minus variable cost, you will get contribution. Contribution minus fixed cost, you guys will get profit. The first thing what the examiner generally do ask is PV ratio. When talking about PV ratio, it is contribution divided by sales into 100. It shows the percentage of contribution to sales. Now, very important, guys, when the question is silent, PV ratio will remain constant at all the level of sales. So if there is any change in selling price per unit or variable cost per unit, then only the PV ratio will change. Else PV ratio will remain constant at all the level of sales. Moving towards the next part, the next concept is break-even sales. When talking about break-even sales, it is that level of sales where there is no profit, no loss, or we can say sales is equals to total cost. When talking about the formula, again, it is fixed cost divided by PV ratio if you want to calculate it in rupees. And if you want to calculate it in units, it is fixed cost divided by contribution per unit. The next concept what we discussed is desired sales. When talking about desired sales, it is the profit will be given and the question will ask you to calculate that how much sales is required to earn my desired profit. So when talking about the formula given, it is fixed cost plus desired profit divided by PV ratio. If you want to calculate desired sales in rupees, and if you want to calculate desired sales in units, it is fixed cost plus desired profit divided by contribution per unit. So this is all what about desired sales. The next concept what we discussed was margin of safety. That is how much we are safe from the deadline of the business, or we can say the break even sales of the business. So when talking about how to calculate margin of safety, it is actual sales minus break even sales. Alternatively, you can calculate profit divided by PV ratio if you want to calculate it in rupees. And if you want to calculate it in units, it is profit divided by contribution per unit. One more thing, when two period figures are given, when two period, generally, in some question, the data are given for 2023 and 2023-4. Sales and profit data are given. And the question asks us to calculate the various figures. So the point is very simple. The first point is to calculate PV ratio, wherein PV ratio will be the change in profit divided by change in sales into 100. I repeat again, when talking about PV ratio, it will be change in profit divided by change in sales into 100. And once the PV ratio is calculated, we can calculate the fixed cost, wherein sales will be multiplied by PV ratio, we will get contribution, and profit is given in the question, so we can calculate the fixed cost, that will be the balancing figure. So these were the basic concepts that are covered in marginal costing. Apart from this, few additional concepts what we discussed in marginal costing was related to sales mix, wherein there are two or more than two products, and the question asks, and the fixed cost is given as a whole, and the question asks you to calculate the break-even sales and individual break-even sales for the products that are given. So herein we will first calculate the combined PV ratio, and thereafter we will calculate the combined break-even sales. And once combined break-even sales is calculated, we will distribute it in the sales ratio, that is the price into the weight. Alternatively, you can calculate it in units also, that is fixed cost divided by weighted contribution per unit. So this was the concept of sales mix. Apart from this, there is one more concept, the shutdown point. Very important concept. These types of question, अभी तक आए नहीं है exams में. So examiner can ask you the shutdown point based question, wherein the formula, again I have discussed the concepts, that is how to approach the solution, wherein it will be the total fixed cost minus the shutdown cost divided by contribution per unit. You will get the shutdown point. That is the point where we are indifferent to continue or to shut down. So that is the indifference point or shutdown point. I repeat again, shutdown point is the point where we are indifferent कि business चालू रखो बंद रखो हमें नुकसान उतना ही होने वाला है. So this was the concept of shutdown point. Thereafter, again, one more concept that is related to export orders, or we can say the additional orders. So herein variable cost plays a key role. Variable cost is the key. So because fixed cost is already recovered with our current capacity. And suppose if we get an export order and there are no additional fixed cost. So what we have to do is fixed cost, since it is already recovered from our present capacity. So herein, while fixing up the price, variable cost is the key. So you have to keep in mind that how much is my variable cost to manufacture a product, and accordingly we can fix up the selling price for a particular bulk export order. Again, the most important part, that is the key factor, as I have already discussed today also, wherein the resource which is in very limited supply, we call it as the key factor, and our production will be based on that key factor. So not the contribution, but the contribution per the resource of the key factor plays an important role, that which product we should manufacture. So herein in this question also, see, the raw material was my key factor. So my decision will be based on contribution per kg of raw material. Again, if my machine hours are my key factor, contribution per machine hour will be the basis of decision. So this was one of the concept. Apart from this, again, the opportunity cost, the cost of foregone opportunity. So this concept also I have discussed in my regular batch, and today also we discussed the concept of opportunity cost. One more point, a very important point, is the indifference point, The point, it can differ from question to question. That is the point where either the total costs are equal or the profits are equal. So indifference point is also very important. Examiner can ask questions on indifference point also. So these are the few concepts. Again, one more question examiner can ask, that is the difference between absorption costing and marginal costing. So in absorption costing is what we have learned in cost sheet and overheads. And in marginal costing, again, sales minus variable cost, contribution minus fixed cost is profit. So these are the few points of this chapter. Again, when talking about how to prepare for this chapter, very important, guys, no need to memorize the formulas. Don't focus on the formulas. Nothing to do with formulas. Focus on the concepts. There are many formulas that are given in study materials, so don't follow the formula approach. Try to learn the concept, that why these formulas. In my regular batches, I think there are 4 to 5 sessions allocated for marginal costing, and I have discussed each and every concept, each and every formula in detail, that how these formulas are prepared, how to apply these concepts in the question. I have discussed variety of questions in my regular batch also, and in today's session also I have discussed variety of question. So no need to apply the formula. Apply the concept. Trust me, you'll be able to solve any question. Each and every question you will be able to solve. So the point is, stick to the concept. Try to focus on concepts rather than memorizing formula. And apart from this, try to solve as many as possible questions in writing. Again, ticking करके question solve मत कीजिए. This is my last session for this revisionary class. So be it any chapter, formulas are not important. The concepts are the key. I have discussed in regular batch, apart from labor costing and I think integrated and non-integrated, I have discussed each and every chapter. The sessions are available over YouTube or Institute portal. So do refer my sessions. You'll be able to understand that, okay, these are the concepts and this is the way how to approach the solution. In fact, in joint byproduct also, in the previous class, I think a class back, I have discussed that how to approach the question if you find lengthy question. So try to collect the extracts from the question. Be it any chapter, if you find a lengthy question, try to prepare the extracts of the question. Once the extracts are ready or the flow chart is ready, you can easily calculate all the figures that are required for the question. So when talking about costing, guys, stick to the concepts. Try to solve as many as possible questions in writing. Don't focus on the formulas. Again, if you find lengthy question in exam, take your time, relax, read the question. पूरा question आप ध्यान से पढ़िए with patience. Write the extracts of the question and then start approaching for the solution. Trust me, you will be able to solve the question very easily. Again, as I mentioned earlier also, try to solve as many as possible question in writing, because I have mentioned in my previous class also that many students are not being able to complete the paper on time. So the point is the lack of practice and the lack of speed. And again, the concepts are not clear. So once you will write the question, once you will write the solution on your own, it will help you to develop the concepts, and it will help you to develop the speed. And again, you will be more confident in solving new questions. So the point is, don't do ticking. Exam में जो है आपको solution नहीं मिलेगा to do ticking. You have to write the solution. So prepare it accordingly. So that is the key. So again, in costing, there are no choice based chapter that okay, ये choice में आ गया, ये exam में आ गया, ये नहीं आएगा. If from last 4 attempts, if the examiner are asking question on process costing, in 5th attempt also they will ask question on process costing. Many students believe that okay, ये concept तो last year आ गया है या last attempt में आ गया, this concept the examiner is not going to ask. So the point is, examiner is much more smarter than you. So he might ask you the same concept again in the next exams also. So don't leave any concept. Don't leave any chapter. The paper is a full 100 marks. Earlier it was 60-40 for costing and FM. So somehow, somewhere students can skip few chapters. But now costing is a full 100 marks. So each and every chapter is important. ऐसा कोई भी जरूरी नहीं है कि ये 12 मार्क्स का क्वेश्चन एग्जाम में आ गया पिछले अटेम्प्ट में, अब तो नहीं आएगा या कम मार्क्स का आएगा. एग्जामिनर विल आस्क द क्वेश्चन. So the institute are conducting these classes for your benefit. All the faculties are very good. Try to attend and try to check the recorded sessions of all the faculties. Trust me, I mean, you will gain and gather a lot of knowledge, lots of knowledge, and again, it will help you a lot while writing exams and preparing for exams. So anyways, guys, So done with my today's session, and I think it's the last class of this revisionary batch. So thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much for your time and patience and for active participation in the session. If you have any doubts or queries, you can write a mail to cma-inter@icai.in, be it any conceptual queries, be it query related to any question addressing my name. Do write the mail. I'm there till the last date of your exams. I'll respond to your queries immediately as and when I'll receive. At least in a day's time, I'll surely respond to your queries personally. So do start preparing for your exams. Hardly it's only, I mean, a month, almost 15-20 days left. So start preparing for your exams, plan your studies accordingly so that you can clear the papers. And if anything you need from my side, just write a mail. I'm there for you guys. So thank you so much, guys. God bless you. Wish you good luck for your exams. Take care. Admin sir, admin sir, are you there? Nisarg sir, admin sir, session over, sir.